Welcome to the Serverless Coffee Break. Happy Friday. I've got my coffee ready. I hope you have too. And today's guest is Marcia from Fubar, who's someone I've been following for years and I've personally learned a lot from since I started picking up serverless. She's been really prolific on Medium, writing dozens and dozens of blogs and made hundreds of different videos on her YouTube channel, Fubar. So she's gone from helping the community directly and was previously a serverless hero to helping the community inside AWS, and now she's a developer advocate. So without further ado, welcome Marcia. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us late on this Friday night for you.
Hello world, and welcome to James' Twitch Periscope thingy.
Great.
I hope you're great. James, thank you for inviting me. And for me it's 7 o'clock. I'm in Finland, so I don't know. You have to guess what is inside this jar, if it's coffee or something else. Never know.
So I've got lots and lots of questions for you. We've only got 15 minutes. So one of my first ones...
Oh, you're so screwed.
I've been reading your stuff for a very, very long time. So I was wondering how you first got into serverless. How did you discover it and what were your first projects?
Well, I've been tinkering with technology since forever. So I always had side projects. And when I had a whole conference talk on this, so be careful that we don't end up in 40 minutes. But I started in this project and we had to do a migration, and I told my boss, let's use serverless, because I didn't know more than to deploy like 4 Lambdas in all my life. So we went through serverless, and it was like 6-7 months after Lambda was launched. So it was very early stage. It was a very painful process. We screwed it, but we managed to migrate the whole thing. It was very fun, and I learned a lot, and I ended up loving the technology. And I think since then, I never deployed any other type of applications than a serverless application. So don't ask me how to start a Express server or a Java thingy. I don't know how to do that anymore.
So when did you first decide to start the YouTube channel, and how do you think it helped you in connecting and helping other developers?
Well, I always had a blog because I have very bad memory. So I like to write things down and then I use them for myself. I never had an audience in my technical blogs. I was mostly my audience and maybe my mom that she liked and clap everything I did. And then one day I was training my team on serverless and we were all learning about these things. And it was so hard to get everybody on the same slot, like, oh no, I have to pick my kid from school, I'm sick, I don't know, it's raining. So I started to some YouTube videos and people start watching them because by that time, like almost 4 years ago, there was no content about serverless. So if I created a video, hello world, serverless, people were like, interesting. There is serverless videos. And that's how I started. And when I realized that people were watching that, it's just move from like, well, maybe instead of doing this for my team, I do it for like a more broader audience and I do it more regularly. And by now I have around 250 videos on my YouTube channel. And during this last month, I've been posting like 2 or 3 times a week. So let's see. It's just crazy.
And before you joined AWS, you joined us sort of around the same time I did, I remember. You were previously a serverless hero. How did that help you in preparing for your new life as a developer advocate?
Well, now I'm getting paid by AWS to do the same things I was doing before for free, so that's good. So it kind of, and before joining AWS, I had a moment between like 2 years, 1.5 years, when I was in maternity leave and I put up my company. And my company, basically what it was doing workshops, trainings, speaking events, online courses. So basically all these things that now I do on a payroll for AWS, and I don't have to worry about getting customers. So for me, it was a great preparation. Like the interview was super smooth because they knew what I could do, and like I knew more or less the job. Sure, there was some surprises, and because there is always AWS is such a big company that you always find new things. But for me, it was very smooth transformation, and I love it. And I'm really happy not to have to manage my own accounting anymore. I hate that part. So.
Yeah.
It's
So actually, what has been the biggest surprise for you since you started working at AWS? Now you get to peek behind the curtain.
Well, I think there is a lot of strategy building, and I was working by myself, so I was making the strategy in my head for my company, my one person thingy. So my reach was very small. But then when I joined in this role, I was sitting in the table with the Nordic management. I was deciding the strategy on how we are going to grow the community and grow the Nordic region. That's the region I'm working in. And then also with the developers advocates in EMEA, in the Europe and Middle East and Africa, on how we are going to talk with those developers and engage them and inspire them. So for me, that was like, wow, I have so much things to do. It's not only create content and deliver it, but it's also bigger and more meaningful things that it drives the community and everybody to grow. So I loved it.
Yeah. And how do you keep up with everything that's going on here? I know one of the biggest challenges I have is the sheer number of features and releases. So what are your tricks for keeping up with everything that's new?
I don't keep up with anything. I just have my niche. I should not have my niche because I'm a generalist developer advocate, not like you, that you're a serverless developer advocate. So I should know everything about everything, and I don't. I'm totally honest. I don't. So I have some topics that I'm very interested in, and I try to keep up with those, mostly serverless. That's my passion. So that's what I try to keep in reading the blogs, talking with the people inside and trying things and playing with things and asking millions of questions. But then other things, I cannot handle it. It's so much launches and so many services, and I think it's impossible for anybody to learn everything. But I think after you are in AWS for a while, you understand some of the things on how they work. So if you have to learn a new service from scratch just to do a presentation, if they give you a week, you can do it. Because there is many patterns that are behind how services are created and how things are created that make sense, and you start understanding. And I'm being put in that place. I remember I don't know much about analytics. Well, now I know, but when I joined, I didn't know much. And I have to deliver this session. Like, oh, the person that is delivering this session is sick. Can you do it? Well. So what I did was build a demo and start tinkering and embracing my, in order to deliver that session, I changed it totally. I ended up making a session that was embracing my newbie and my naive perspective on these services and how you can get started. And I think it turned out very well because it was a very honest session. It was something that I practiced for a week, like all the demo. I tried things, I broke things, and then during the session I was like, well, if you do this, it might seem natural, but don't do it. It doesn't work. And people were really, really enjoying that session. So I think that's how I think I learned. I've been learning all my life by doing.
Yeah. So for serverless developers, what's your favorite time-saving trick that very few people know about?
Well, I don't know if very few people know, but I have GitHub repos on all the simplest things in the world. So whenever I need to start a project, I will go and clone my own GitHub repo. The ones that I do for the videos are not only for the people watching, but for me. So, I need to make an app using EventBridge. I have created a demo that connects to Lambdas using EventBridge. Go, git clone, and I start from there. I have a very big issue starting with empty projects. I just feel like very overwhelmed. So for me, I always go and git clone a repo that might have a good structure, and then I start, how I call Dynamo, how I use the SDK, I have repo and I copy paste. This class does this. And I start working always on copy paste code. That's, I think, the easiest way. And then I just focus on the different parts that change. So I don't know, it makes my life easier.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And so for the tools that exist outside of AWS, what are some of your favorite open source tools and frameworks that you use, and why do you use them?
Well, I'm a fan of Serverless Framework. I've been a fan since the day one because that was the only thing available when I started. So I've been using it since I think 0.5 or something like that, and I still have GitHub repos on that. And when you look at that, it's like, oh my God, that was so confusing. So I really love that framework. I think it's a great open source project, and I love the open source community that is behind it, building the plugins. And I think that's one of my favorite things from the framework. All the plugins that are there to make your life easy when you want to integrate a new AWS service with a serverless framework. So that's my top first thing outside AWS I will recommend.
So I have to ask you then, so should you use AWS Sam or Serverless Framework, and why should you choose between the two? What would you recommend to people?
I will not recommend any of them. Both of them are great, and nowadays I'm working a lot in AWS, and when I joined, I didn't know much about Sam, so I took okay, Marcia, now you're in AWS, start learning Sam, and I really like it, and I've been able to do everything I want with it. So I don't think there is one better or worse, depending on first your project. There is many reasons why you might choose one over the other. If you are more about open source and the tools that Serverless Framework provide, or then you want something more integrated into the AWS ecosystem, maybe you choose Sam. The most important thing is that you choose a framework and not go to the console and click, 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 because then I will cut your fingers.
Right. And so a lot of teams who are working with serverless, CI/CD is a big thing for them. What do you think is the easiest way for teams to pick up CI/CD processes for groups of people?
I think Code Pipeline is a great tool. I've been talking a lot about it, and I think it's extremely simple to set up with Sam, for example. Well, with Serverless Framework as well, but with Sam it's extremely integrated. You can basically have one Sam template and deploy it into multiple different environments and connect it with GitHub and build one and then deploy that same artifact all around and do different tests. And it's extremely simple to set up with very little knowledge on CI/CD. You just go to, you can build the pipeline as infrastructure as code, but you can even go to the console and you have a beautiful tool that will allow you to create the different stages, like, I need to get my source from GitHub, I need to build my code. Then you can use code build and build the SAM project, for example, and run your unit test. And then you can have all your different environments that are deployed with CloudFormation, or even do safe deployments with the integration that is with code deploy to do Canary, or linear deployments with the Lambda hooks. So there is a lot of things that you can do with very little knowledge. And I think Code Pipeline is a great integration for getting started.
Yeah. And now you're one of the people who've been around the serverless space really, as long as anybody. You've seen it for quite a few years. So how do you see development in this space evolving and changing?
Well, I think I love the community. I think when we started, we were few people, and now it's becoming more and more popular. I can see it also in my analytics from my YouTube channel. At the beginning, my videos were getting 10 views, and they were good. And now I can see people searching all kind of interesting things and asking all weird questions that before it was not possible. So I'm super happy to see that adoption that is getting more and more popular all the time. And also the tooling is becoming more accessible. When I started, I think nobody had an idea on how to monitor these systems. It was like, I don't know, it's the same. No, it's not. And now there is a lot of changes in that. And I think that makes the developers' life so much easier. And also the understanding of that serverless is not the same as containers, it's not the same as the traditional way that we have to make applications. And people are getting more and more familiar with that concept that is not you just have an app. You have a distributed system and you have all the pains and the gains from a distributed app, and you need to work with it.
Yeah. So one of the questions I get asked all the time, I was going to make it my final question to you, is how do you learn serverless? If you're a programmer and you work in other frameworks, other languages, and you want to get involved, where should you start? What are the good resources?
A YouTube channel.
Yep.
It's the best. But I think nowadays there is so much content, and the documentation has become quite good from the AWS products, or I don't know, other clouds. I imagine they also have good documentation. So just starting from trying things out, trying small things. The good thing with serverless is that it's free to start because you don't need to worry about having virtual machines and leaving them running. There is so many invocations that you can do on your Lambdas and all different managed services that you can use for free forever in your free AWS tier. So it's so easy, the barrier to entry in that way, that you can go and try. And I think that's the best thing. Try, get some idea. Okay, I want to, I don't know, do a Twitter thing, and then start checking okay, maybe I can use Amplify for my front end, and try this and that, and Google and explore. And at least that's the way I learned. So that's the way I recommend. Maybe I'm sure other people have different ways of learning. So that might be a little bit overwhelming, but now there's so many courses as well that you can go and have very structured learning for learning serverless for beginners in different platforms, with different frameworks, with different ways of teaching. So that's also, if you like, more structured learning, and books and all kind of things. So there's many entryways to the serverless world.
Well, I definitely recommend your YouTube channel. I put the URL on the screen for everybody underneath the Fubar channel. So thanks very much to Marcia for joining us today. My name's James Bezic. I'm a developer advocate here at AWS Serverless. If you have any questions at all for Lambda, Serverless, or really anything related to AWS, let me know, or someone else in the DA team. That's Chris, Rob, Ben, Eric, Julian, and Mohib. We're happy to take any of your questions and help you however you can. Next week, we've got Ran Ribbonzaf from Epsagon on the show, so tune in then. But otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.